Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar on 5 tips for developing your team. I'm your host, Joe Anderson. I appreciate you joining me today for this webinar. Hopefully, it adds value and you get something out of it. So I appreciate you joining me. With that, my name is Joe Anderson. I'm a co-founder of Reliability X. Have a lot of certifications. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years now. I'm not sure, getting old. So, but I appreciate that. A little bit about me, but what I'm more proud of is our company and Reliability X. And Reliability X, we're an empowerment company. And our focus is to teach organizations and people within those organizations how to do things the right way so that we're not a cash cow and we develop skills within people that they can then go out and execute. Our goal with empowerment is growth of people. And so we love cultivating the skills and working with people to do that. I'm also proud to say we're the only organization with 2 CMRP of the Year award winners, with 2 CRL Black Belts, 2 Uptime Award winners. And of course, we have a Solutions Award for our awesome service side and bridging the gap between operations and maintenance and helping people learn and do plant turnarounds. So we're proud to be a part of that. I'm proud of that as Reliability X. We do offer a lot of training. So we do on-site, in-person, public courses, as well as we have self-paced online training. We have the self-paced maintenance and reliability's best practice course. It's based off of Ramesh's book. We also have a self-paced lubrication fundamentals course that can help you with your preparation for your MLT1. So we do have those. We also have a service side where we help. We do assessments. We do a lot of coaching. And we help basically do anything we can to help organizations turn it around. So with that, I appreciate you joining me. And let's jump into tip number 1. So these tips are things that I learned over the years as a maintenance manager, and I used to develop my teams. And I got better and better at it, as I went on. But number 1 is the use of Toolbox talks to develop or refresh certain skills. Now, what a Toolbox talk is technically is just kind of a short daily discussion, a lot of times focused on safety topics. What's a safety topic of the day? This is between, the shifts. As you come on to the shift, have a little crossover meetings and then go into a little safety meeting and stuff for the day with your team. And what I like to do is use that time to introduce a topic or some sort of skill refresher, whether it's technical or philosophical. And what I mean by that, technical skills relate to hands-on stuff, where philosophical is the way we go about doing things and why. And so I'll share a couple different examples. I'll share a technical example and a philosophical example with you here in just a second. But again, the goal here is after you've covered your safety topic, sometimes it's a piece of paper, sometimes it's a work instruction, sometimes it's a PowerPoint slide. Depends on what you want to do, but the goal is, in the end, is refreshers or skill development for those that don't know. Okay. And so those little things add up over time. When you're doing this every day, 5 days a week, right? You're learning 5 new things or refreshing 5 new things and keeping them fresh in the back of your head. It changes the way you operate. The more and more you learn, the more you grow. Okay. So with that, let's share a few examples here. So from a technical skills perspective, I would do something like this. So tell me, which picture is correct, 1, 2, or 3? And if you chose 3, you are correct. And why is that? Well, when we talk about unbalance, if you think about your car tires and why they put weights on the car tires to balance them when you have your tires balanced, right? There's a couple of reasons why. one is a smooth ride. If you've had unbalanced tires before, you know it's a very bumpy ride. It's not the most pleasant thing to be riding in your car with unbalanced tires. But the other thing is it preserves the life of the wheel bearings, or it helps to extend the life of the wheel bearings. Okay. And it's the same thing. We do this all the time with equipment. It's, we'll do this. We'll cut an extra long key stock to fill in all that metal. The problem with doing that is we just added extra weight to one side of the shaft. So that creates unbalance, which means excessive vibration, all kinds of things. Lower life of the bearings on the motor. Okay. And it's just the inverse here where we cut it too short, the key stock. And now we have all this metal that isn't filled in or it's missing. Which it's inverted, but the same problem exists. You're out of balance. So we should be using step keys. So our goal is life extension of the assets, prolonged life extension. And so we have to do things that help us attain best practice. And this would be one of those things. So that is a technical skill, something that I would focus on. From a philosophical perspective, this is a case study that George Williams did, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Who knows? It's been a while. So you can understand that these dollars were back then, it's probably increased 100-fold today. It's probably double. Okay. But with that being said, understanding that if we get our precision maintenance in place and do it correctly and double check our work, and we still find misalignment through vibration analysis, we can still go back, realign it, and correct the issue. Okay. And then when you reach the predictive domain, you've done damage, and now we have to replace the bearing. So it requires the machine to be shut down, planned and scheduled work, parts ordered, kitted, executed. So it costs a little more. And then you have where you run it to failure and it catastrophically fails, and the costs go up astronomically. And so what I like to teach my guys is if we have our precision maintenance in place, it's a lot cheaper, which means we have more money in the budget to do more fun things. I can send more people to training. I can buy some fancier tools. There's a lot of things I can do when I'm not blowing my budget. But for some reason, we operate in this reactive domain and we think we can't afford to buy tools and all this other stuff. Well, okay, if that's your thinking. But that's a chicken or an egg argument, and it doesn't make any sense. Without doing precision or predictive maintenance, you'll never be successful. So until you bite the bullet, sell the organization on the need, whatever you need to do to get these things in place, you're never going to be able to afford anything. And you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And so here I like to teach them philosophical things, get them to understand why we do certain things and why we want to operate in these domains and why we want to be the best at precision maintenance, why we want to be the best at predictive maintenance. Okay. Which leads me to tip number 2. With tip number 2, you should be doing weekly trainings that are 30 minutes to an hour long. I did it twice a week. I tried to do it as much as I could. But at least once a week where you meet with the whole shift and you do some training. Now, you don't technically have to do the training. Yeah. Like if I want to do a longer technical training, and maybe I'm not the most technical guy, I never was. I didn't need to be. I was the strategy guy. I wasn't the technical guy. Okay. And so I would have somebody do the training. Of course, I was there. You better be there. across, even if you have 3 shifts, 4 shifts, 6 shifts. It depends on, what your work schedule is. You should be at every one of those. Okay. You should be able to teach on the big picture business related items. If you don't know well enough to teach it, it's time to learn. Okay. You should understand what OEE is and how it affects EBITDA and how everything we do ties into that. What our maintenance cost per unit is, what our total cost per unit is. Those types of things. Understanding those things from a business perspective and how what we do ties to the organizational objectives. Have your process owners teach a topic. For example, there's 15 fundamental processes that make up the maintenance system. And I would have an owner for each one of those processes. So my mechanics would own something, my leads would own something, my supervisors would own something, I own something, my planner owns something, storeroom owns something, everybody owns something. And the goal with them and their ownership is to become a subject matter expert. That's why they own that process, is to be the subject matter expert. And so I want them teaching. My lubrication management owner would teach my guys things about the process around lubrication. This is how you clean a bearing. This is why you wipe off the bearing. This is why you don't contaminate the bearing. This is how, this is the greases that we use. These are the color coding schemes that we have in place. Any of those types of things. You get them up there and teaching them. And you do this for a couple reasons. One, yes, you're teaching your guys, but 2, you're developing that process owner skill set. By them getting up there to teach, 1, it helps them overcome their fear. And a lot of them will say they don't want to do it. Okay. It's time to man up. Right? And you have them do it. They overcome the fear, 1. 2, they become better orators, which is a need for growth within the industry. You have to be a good orator if you want to be promotable. Okay. So you're developing other skills as well. Yeah. Soft skills, those types of things. Communicate your strategy. Every time you do something, it should tie back to your departmental plan. Your departmental plan, well, you should have a departmental plan. And it should be about how well you're going to execute a maintenance and all the things you're going to do to be the best. And how all this training and stuff relates to what you're trying to accomplish. That needs to be reiterated over and over and over and over again. Then teach them how each individual contributes to organizational objectives. This is a big one. Why do we do what we do? I don't care if it's the janitor. How does the janitor affect profits within the company? Well, it's fairly easy. Picture you have a customer coming through wanting to tour your facility, and the janitor quits doing their work. There's no toilet paper in the bathroom. There's no paper towels. The place is filthy. Everybody's office trash is full. You think you retain that customer? The customer's going to walk in and go, "What kind of ship are you running? I don't want to do business with you." And so you lose a customer. Well, what does that do to your profits if you don't have volume? What about contamination issues that it can cause because of uncleanliness? Whether it's hygiene contamination or equipment contamination. Now you have quality issues. So understand how each job function affects net income or profit or EBITDA or EBIT, whatever you guys call it. We all contribute to it. And teach them how, so they understand why it's valuable, the work they do, and how they add value to the company, and why it's important to do great work and have great workmanship. For example, on the business side, Let's look at the tale of two OEs. If you look at process failures and minor stops in these two examples, there's a combined 3,000 hours in example one, and right below it, they've reduced it by 50%, which means they probably eliminated 5 or 6 major issues. If you sit and you analyze your losses, you don't have a lot of problems. You think you do because you're overwhelmed, but honestly, it's 10, 15, 20 things that are eating your lunch that if you actually took the time and went out to the line and tried to solution it, see, instead of being a problem teller, you should be a problem solver. But we're in this habit of telling everybody what the problems are, but doing nothing about it. And this is what separates you from everybody else. You go out and solution the problems, make them go away. And you reduce it by 50%. Just those two buckets, you go from 49% OEE and $1.90 cost per unit to 61% OEE and $1.75 cost per unit. That's how you know you have an effect. That's why I say the two most important metrics is maintenance cost per unit and OEE for a maintenance manager. And if not maintenance cost per unit, total cost per unit. Because I want to know the effect that I had by eliminating losses out of my system. And what does that do? Well, we go from $3.6 million to $23.5 million in EBITDA. And so I spend time teaching people the business side of things, helping them understand how it is that if we don't properly align that pump, and 3 months later we're replacing the pump, and last time it failed, it cost us $25,000, and that happens 15 times a year, and you want to know where that $1 million went, it went to our poor practices and poor workmanship. So what do we need to do? How about we align and balance it? How about we properly take care of it? It's not hard to be a profit center in maintenance and make an organization millions of dollars by making problems go away. Who else is going to do it? No one's coming to save you. So these are things that I teach them. I want them to have this understanding. I want them to be more educated than everybody else. I want them to be the best. So no one can question us. It gives us credibility. When we have our ducks in a row, no one can question us. When we're doing things right, no one can question us. I like to be the best. Tip number 3. Now this one wrinkles feathers a lot, but I don't really care. See, there's this thing in leadership called empathy. Empathy is about caring about your people. And we lack that a lot today. Between empathy and self-awareness, they're probably the two largest gaps that exist in our culture today. But not seeing people as objects, but seeing them as human beings and wanting the best for them and seeing the good in them. It could be your worst employee, but why? Why are they the worst employee? Have you taken the time to try to understand why? Do you really care about your people? Or are you there collecting a paycheck just like everybody else? And if that's the life that you've resolved yourself to, then so be it. But don't complain about your crappy life when that's what you've chalked it up to. That's your fault. Our goal here is to ensure the growth of others and the success of others. Bring them with you on your journey. Growth and success are awesome. So instead of ranking people based on from 1 to 5 how much I like you, because that's what you're truly doing, whether you're honest with yourself or not. We basically rank people, and I really wish organizations understood that, the 1 through 5 ranking process and how subjective it is. And it's just based on how well I like you. Instead, if you went to individual development plans and held them to that plan because you care about their personal growth, it would be a completely different outcome. So within my department, I want you to give me one personal goal and one business related goal. That's my development plan for the year. And we're going to work together to ensure that you get this done. And that ensures growth. Be specific with the goals. For example, with the personal goal, don't say, I want to be a better dad. Be more specific. I want to spend 4 hours per week with my kids. And we're going to break that goal down into objectives and that objectives into tasks. We'll meet quarterly to review it. If there's anything you need from me, you let me know. I'm an obstacle remover. That's my job as a maintenance manager. So whatever I can do to help, you let me know. And build time into the schedule for them to work on their business goals. Now, sometimes their personal and business goals will be interrelated and they can end up doing both, but build time into the schedule for them to work on it, letting them know that you're serious about their growth. This isn't a joke. I want you to grow. I want you to be better. We can all be better. None of us are perfect. We all have room to improve. Every one of us. Every one of us needs help. That's the reality of things. So, for example, now I didn't build all this out. I just built the one objective out, but just for example's sake. So I want to spend 4 hours per week with my daughter. Well, objective number 1 is daddy-daughter date weekly. I'm going to take my daughter out every week. We're going to go eat or go to a movie or something. We're going to go do something, play some miniature golf, go to Build-A-Bear, whatever it is. Yeah. And objective number 2 is I'm going to spend time teaching her a new skill. So 2 hours for each. That gives me my 4 hours per week. And I'm going to be present there. And so my first objective, daddy-daughter date, well, I'll have to budget for it. Do I have the money for doing certain things? Maybe I don't have the money for it. That's okay. We can still go for a cruise and listen to music or have a conversation or eat dinner at the house. I can just make it fancy. Or maybe we just spend time watching a movie together. That's okay too. The goal is about the quality time, not about the amount of money you spend. And create a schedule and allow her to choose where you go or what you do. Maybe she wants to stay home. Maybe she just wants to play Barbies. Maybe she wants to build a dollhouse. Maybe she wants to go outside and play. Who knows? Maybe if I'm taking her out to dinner, I buy clothes and I make it formal. So I'm showing my daughter the type of man that I want her to end up with. And I model it and example it. Have a small gift for her every time you meet for that daddy-daughter date. It could be flowers, a personal handwritten note. Doesn't have to be much. It just means a lot. And you go take her out, right? And you got to do that 52 times a year. But I tell you what, you'll have the healthiest relationship in the world. And that'll make you a better dad. It's the only way we get ranked isn't how other people see us, it's how our kids see us. So if our kids see us as a great dad, we're a great dad. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's about what our kids think. We're raising the next generation. And then my business goal be become MLT1 certified. And so maybe it's attend a lubrication course or read these 6 books or whatever and take the exam. So I'm going to build time into their schedule. If it's read these 6 books, awesome. I'm going to give you an hour a week to go sit in a corner and read. If I catch you not reading, though, you're going to lose that privilege and you're going to have to do that on your own. So take that hour serious I'm giving you, because I'm paying you to go read a book. Right? They need to know what the expectation is and what the example is. But at the same time, you should be helping them grow and giving them that time. Okay? So create those development plans. Tip 4, budget for outside training. This is a tough one at first, because when you're reactive, you don't have money. And you can't buy tools, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Well, your company always finds the money whenever you're down, which amazes me. We don't ever think about the business. We just react all the time. We don't step back and think about the stupidity that some of the things we do or say, don't quite understand it, right? But you always find the money because you got to keep it running. So you'll spend $80,000 on this failure, but you can't spend $15,000 on an ultrasound gun to set up routes to find failures earlier. So it's not costing you $80,000 every time you go down. I get it, right? Makes a lot of sense, sure. Makes no sense at all. So if you budget for outside training, you got to think it's $1,000 to $2,000 to attend a training, plus $2,000 to $3,000 in all travel and expenses. So you're looking at $5,000 a person to go to one training set a year. If you have 20 people, that's $100,000. That's a big training budget. But you can do it as you get better. You can also bring in-person training on site and train the masses. So, for example, some people might want to go to Allen Bradley training because they're the PLC experts. That's great. You're not going to train everybody on PLCs. So an individual training, that's awesome. I'd send 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 people, depending on how I can afford a year, out to their own personal training. I would just make sure that it's not the same people going every year. Unless they're the only ones that volunteer, then that's on the rest of the crew. But everybody else needs training on lubrication. So I'd bring lubrication training in-house. Because everybody needs trained on lubrication. Not just 1 or 2 people. Everybody needs to understand lubrication. Right? And so those things you could bring on site to train the masses. You could do lunch and learns with vendors, suppliers, consultants, etc. Those are always awesome too. Bring in your bearing supplier to talk about how bearings fail over lunch. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Provide resources. They're typically free from your vendors or suppliers to all personnel. Bearing failure poster. Put it up in your shop. Every failed bearing you replace, cut it open, clean it up, and compare it to the poster. Understand why it failed. So you can make a correction to your maintenance strategy and make that problem go away. Fairly simple. Free poster, free failed bearings. Didn't cost you anything. The company already paid for it all. It doesn't cost you anything. Learn why bearings fail. Free books, things like a proper bearing installation guide. SKF provides all that stuff in PDF digital form. You can get it all for free. Or work instructions you can get for free. And those also can become toolbox talks. Can repurpose a lot of this stuff. Go over it, refresher trainings. And swag. People like swag. Some people do, some people don't. Pens are awesome. We'll use them, notepads, all that type of stuff. You love that stuff in the maintenance shop. You'll use them. All right. For example, Ludeca. They do these really awesome work instructions. And I don't know, they have 20, 30, 40 different ones, I'm not sure. And they have posters and all kinds of stuff. So when you buy stuff from them, they'll give you stuff for free. They did all the work. They want you to be successful. That's why they're providing these tools. They don't want you just to buy the tool. They want you to buy the tool and use it. And so they try to provide you with every means necessary to make you successful. Why? Because they're a service company. The products sell themselves, but the service is unmatched. That's why they're such a great company. And they provide this stuff. You get it for nothing. And then you can go over it with guys. Or you can hang them on the wall, or you can do whatever. Have a book full of work instructions. Cover it in your toolbox talks. Go more in depth on this stuff in your weekly trainings. You can reutilize all of this stuff, and it's awesome. And all you'll see is people's growth. The more skills and the more knowledge they have, and the more they execute. Here's the key. You have to execute on the knowledge, which means as a leader, you've got to provide people the opportunity to go out after they've learned all this stuff and go out and screw things up. Yeah, they're going to make mistakes. Who cares? They're also going to learn what to do, not just what not to do. And in doing so, they develop a skill set and they've got to go practice. You don't get good at shooting free throws by just picking up a basketball. You've actually got to put it into play. That's how you develop a skill. So you learn something new and you go out and you practice it. And that develops a skill. Now all of a sudden I can dribble a basketball because I spent the time screwing it up, dribbling it off of my foot or off of my knee or whatever. But after so many hours of practice, I become good at it and I have a skill set now. So you have to allow people to go out and practice. And yes, they're going to make mistakes as long as it's not something boneheaded. There wasn't a guard on the machine, so I stuck my arm in it. Not the great thing to do. That's a boneheaded move. But over greasing a bearing because you're playing with your, precision grease gun caddy, it's okay. They'll learn from it. They'll develop a skill. They'll hone the skill. They'll get better at it. The goal is you're creating subject matter experts. So one, so you don't have to be. And two, their personal growth. That's the key. Which leads me to tip number 5. Now, tip number 5 was a hard one for me. It was a very hard one for me. If you're a driven person, you'll relate to this. It's very hard to feel like you're ever doing enough. Or you're getting far enough ahead, or you're getting better and better, or you're the best, right? You could have the best maintenance organization in the world and still feel like you're inadequate. There's always more work to do. But when you're driven, we tend to have that feeling all the time. And what it is that we have this ideal that we need to achieve this. We have this idea of what the perfect state is in our head, and we don't feel like we're getting there. And that ideal is good to have. You have to have it. It keeps you driven. The downfall of that is not taking a step back and understanding that it's also a detriment. Because we need to take the time to celebrate the growth and the successes that we've seen. It's a necessary ideal. I get it. Strive for perfection to achieve excellence. I say that all the time. But it's tough to take a step back. It took me a long, long time to learn this. But it's a very simple fix. All you have to do is take a look at where you are today versus where you were last year. And if you've seen growth and growth in your guys, growth as an organization, reduced downtime, higher profitability, a lot less failure, people are happier. I can count the smiles on the faces now. Before we had 0. Now there's 17 every day. Those are measures of growth and success, and those should be celebrated. You could have a cookout, you could do recognition and praise, you could give out rewards, prizes, whatever it is. But honestly, just being told that you're doing a great job and that you're appreciated and helping them do self-reflection, man, you remember where you were last year? Picture where you are now versus where you were last year. Allowing them to self-reflect gives you gratitude. It humbles you a bit, and you start to see, hey, we really are growing here. Things are moving. And you showed that they're appreciated. And we've come a long way, haven't we? Remember where we were last year? 39% OEE. This year we're averaging 70. Our profitability's through the roof. You remember you didn't even know what a grease gun was? And now look at you. You're MLT1 certified. You're a lubrication expert. You're doing great things. You've set up a great program. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, for sure. We're never going to settle. But man, look at how far we've come already in 1 year. And appreciate that growth and celebrate that growth. It's one of the most undervalued, underappreciated things that go the farthest. Just take the time to celebrate the great things you've done. You have to do it. And with that, I wish you all the success in the world. If there's anything you need from me, that wraps up today's webinar. If you have any questions, send me an email at joseph.anderson@reliabilityx.com. If you would, please take the time to fill out the webinar evaluation form. The webinar code is 2024_11. You scan this QR code and give us some feedback. How did we do in today's webinar? Did I suck? Did I do okay? Did you learn anything? Would you like to hear us talk about a topic? Give us some ideas on what to talk about next. Just give us some feedback. Let us know. Whatever it is we can do. We want to get better too. We can always do better. So with that, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for being with us. Again, fill out the evaluation form for me. I appreciate you. You have a great day.